SpongeGex here, and after nearly 3 months, I'm finally down to the last episode of my Mario Party review series, at least until Nintendo inevitably creates another entry for Switch 2. What started off as a long review for Super Mario Party Jamboree led to me going back and revisiting every Mario Party game from the first, all the way up to the one that I'm reviewing today, which is Mario Party Superstars, the second entry on Switch. Many will either love or hate this one. It's basically just Mario Party the Top 100, except it's HD, and it has 5 board maps remade to go along with it. So once again, we have another batch of minigames, 100 of them in fact, remade. Most of them were brought over straight from the Top 100 in fact. So unlike the other entries on Switch, this one does not use motion controls, making for the first entry since Mario Party 7 where you can actually play it with a GameCube controller if you wanted to. Overall, it's definitely better than the Top 100, but where do I think this game ranks with the other entries? Let's find out. The game opens up with a nostalgic throwback, showing us the warp pipe that started the whole adventure of the first Mario Party 20 years ago. The characters all meet up and decide to go down the warp pipe for old time's sakes and party again. Birdo and DK were not playable in the Top 100, so at least we got a few more characters than that game had. But yeah, overall, the roster is just very pale in comparison to past entries, especially the 20 roster we had from Super Mario Party. Koopa, Toad, and Toadette once again go back to hosting roles. Toadette returns as the one who hands out stars, just like in Super Mario Party. Bowser isn't playable and goes back to being the villain with his own Bowser space and all of that. All 4 of the characters I just listed do return playable in Super Mario Party Jamboree. So right from the start, it tries hitting us with nostalgia, with the HD remake of Mushroom Village, the first game's original hub, but it's hard to get so excited when the music in this game is terrible. Most of the new music tracks are honestly an ear sore. It's just so bad because you remember how these tracks used to sound good. It just is missing the charm and whimsy from the first 3 games. The only music track that's actually an improvement is the one from the board map Peach's Birthday Cake. I'll admit that one actually sounds a lot better, but yeah, one good music track out of over 100 music tracks isn't really a huge accomplishment. There is an unlockable in this game that lets us change the music from the 5 board maps back to the original music from the N64 games. They sound so much better, but too bad the same couldn't be done for the minigames music. Visually, the game is mixed. The visuals are mostly pretty nice, with decent 3D models, more lush textures, and detailed environments, but what really bugs me is the lighting and lack of colors in this game. Some areas look more desaturated than others, and this game relies too much on bright lighting and weird gloss effects, even on some of the characters. Like, seriously, why does Daisy's hair look so shiny? It makes her hair look like it's made out of Cadbury eggs, for crying out loud. Mushroom Village feels so empty in this game. Originally, each house featured 3D houses with different activities and very unique looking Toad hosts, but they've all been drastically changed and simplified. The shop is just a place to buy stickers, basically emotes to use when playing with friends online or to share expressions during the board map gameplay. We can also buy encyclopedia stuff and music tracks, but why would anyone want to listen to this game's awful remixed music? There used to be like a tall skinny Toad with a mustache who ran the shop, and he was replaced with a boring yellow Toad instead now. The coin bank has been replaced with an observatory, which is where players go when they want to connect online and play board maps or minigames with friends, or random matchups. The minigame house has been replaced with the data house. Instead of a fortune-telling Toad, they replaced it with Kamek. Here we can customize personal cards to share with online players, expressing our favorite Mario Party entry along with our 4 favorite minigames across the series. It does not have the handheld entries listed, however, or Super Mario Party. We can view the stuff we purchased from the store here, so we can also unlock character bios that not only give brief details of the characters along with imagery, but it also shows a list of every Mario Party game they appeared in. It would have been nice to have a notifier showing which of these games they were actually playable in, but it's only counting the games where they physically made an appearance, so it's really misleading how it shows like how Donkey Kong's been in every game, and it's like, no, he appeared in all those games, but he wasn't playable in all of them. This section also shows the box arts from the original games, along with the screenshots that were originally found on the back of the boxes, but in higher quality. Admittedly, this is handled much better, more respectfully compared to the similar collection mode from the Top 100. The Options House is now hosted by Shy Guy. Here we can replace the new board music with the old tracks, but we have to unlock them first. We can also speed up text and movement speed for the board map gameplay, something that Super Mario Party in Jamboree sorely needed. It feels so good to play a speedy game of Mario Party again. The Boat to Minigame Island no longer takes us to a single-player challenge that requires us to beat every single minigame. Instead, we're taken to Mount Minigames, which leads to different minigame modes, but they're all mostly just the boring and typical tournaments we've seen done to death in every game since Mario Party 2. It doesn't really have any really unique ways to spice it up or anything, so yeah, it's pretty forgettable for the most part. You would only want to go here to play the 100 minigames in free play mode. They actually brought back a few of the item minigames from Mario Party 2 and 3 in this entry, but they are not selectable in free play mode for some reason. I don't have footage for them, unfortunately, but we got Roll Out the Barrels and Hammer Slammer from Mario Party 2, along with Bobbing Balloons, Swinging with Sharks, and Winner's Wheel from Mario Party 3. So this is going to feel like one of the most tedious reviews I've ever done, since I've already went over most of these minigames in my top 100 review, along with the games that these minigames actually originated from. So I once again got to go over all of these minigames again. In the top 100 review, I compared the 3DS versions to their original versions, claiming notable changes to the minigames, and I also said which versions I liked better, and whether they deserve to be in the top 100. I ended up claiming 51 of these minigames were deserving of the top 100, while claiming 49 of them were not worthy in my opinion. I'm not going to bother doing all of that again, since this game isn't trying to claim that these minigames here are the 100 best minigames ever made. I'm not going to re-describe these minigames either, but what I will do is compare the HD versions of these minigames to some of the previous ones, and once again comparing visuals and control changes. I forgot to mention this, but ever since Super Mario Party, the series has given us the best tutorial screens for the minigames. Instead of a separate instructions menu with a practice mode, there's now a practice mode built into the instructions menu, so we can actually play the minigame for a little bit while we're reading the instructions to make sure that we get the hang of it. I think that's a great way to ease people into the gameplay. It's so much better than the lack of instructions from Mario Party 10 and Star Rush, and better than constantly having to pause the game to be reminded of the instructions. This gives you all the time you need to practice it on the instructions menu until you're ready to play it. That's a really cool idea. So starting off with the 4-player minigames from the first Mario Party. Mushroom Mix-Up returns. Its clone minigame from Mario Party 2 named Hexagon Heat appeared remade in the top 100, but this time they remade the original minigame it was based on. Visually, it looks so much better than the original Mario Party, especially with the more rippling water effects. I do prefer the polka-dotted mushrooms from the original, but I'm guessing they changed it to make it easier for colorblind gamers to play. The mushrooms surprisingly still have their hexagonic shapes from the low-poly N64 version, but the mushrooms would be very hard to run between if they were perfectly round, so it would likely leave gaps that players would easily have slipped through, so keeping them shaped like hexagons was a wise choice. Despite how they could have easily made them more rounder if they wanted to, the addition of the splashes and dripping water is also a great touch. I do prefer the remade version over the original, especially with the smoother and less janky controls. The original game had an annoying gimmick where jumping on an opponent's head flung them into random directions, but now it's possible to jump on a player's head and stay in control of our characters. My only complaint is how it still uses the ground pound, which felt very unnecessary for this minigame. It's even worse in the remake, since in the original games you only had to press A followed by the Z button to do a ground pound, but now you gotta double tap the A button to do it. So there were times where I accidentally double tapped the jump button, and I nearly died for accidentally ground pounding in a premature spot. Bombs Away visually looks so much more stunning than both the N64 and 3DS remake, with its rippling water and more detailed splashes, along with the detailed grass and improved sound effects. But why does it move so slowly in this game? On the N64, the characters moved a lot faster, which made it easy to accidentally run off the edge. The 3DS version had the best gameplay in my opinion. It was admittedly easier than the N64 version, but at least the controls felt better. The characters now move like they're stuck in molasses in the remake. On the bright side, it makes us less likely to accidentally fall off the edge due to the N64's terrible controls, but it makes dodging cannons so much harder at such a sluggish pace. It's still an okay minigame and it looks better than ever, but admittedly the top 100 had the best controls. Shy Guy says, once again, I am so done with this minigame. It's basically the same as the reimagining from the 3DS version. It once again has better visuals with more rippling water and textures, but the Shy Guy's outfit from the N64 was so much better. And this version once again replaces the A and B buttons with the L and R buttons, just like the 3DS version. They actually brought back Crazy Cutters, and it's better than ever in every way. The controls are smoother, the scoring system actually works this time, and I didn't run into any glitches that prematurely ended my turn before I even started moving. The graphics look a lot better as well. Just like the original minigame, it has 3 variants where we have to draw over the outlines of 3 baddies. Despite how it claims to be based on the Mario Party version, only one of the baddies in this minigame were from the first game, where the other 2 variants were from Mario Party 2, including Chain Chomp and Blooper. So all the baddie outlines are different this time around, which makes them trickier to draw than before. In Mario Party 2, we had to draw a circle to draw a Chain Chomp with its mouth closed, but in the remake, the Chain Chomp now has its mouth open from a side-scrolling angle, meaning we gotta draw more sharp angles to draw its teeth. I overall really prefer the remade version of this minigame, and I'm so thankful it fixed the bugs and glitches that the original first 2 games had troubles with, making this the only good way of playing those minigames. Tipsy Tourney is back for some reason. I honestly never found this minigame that great, so instead of a picture of a coin underneath the tiles, it's now randomly selected power-ups like a Starman or a mushroom. They should have went with the Mario Party 2 variant instead, where the picture actually moved when the panels were flipped over. The sound effects sound a lot worse in this version as well. For Mario Party 2, we once again have Dizzy Dancing. It's basically the same one from the 3DS one where they drastically changed the gameplay, but now it has better graphics. Bumper Balls is back, and this time all 3 variants are available instead of just the lava variant. Previously, I said how the N64 version looked better than the 3DS remake for having better looking lava and a cooler looking tower, but it's quite the opposite in Superstars. It actually looks a lot better in HD now. The snow variants look better as well, but how dare they get rid of the frozen Shy Guy? That was such a funny detail. And the island variant also looks decent as well. However, while it looks better, Bumper Balls plays so much worse than both the N64 and even the 3DS versions. The balls barely have any bounce back anymore. It feels more like gentle taps. How could they make it look so visually gorgeous yet play so much worse? The bounce back is so bad that barely anyone got knocked off during the first round. The ice version plays a lot better because you can actually slip around, which adds to the bounce physics. But yeah, overall it plays so much worse. Hot Rope Jump is back and better than ever. Why was this not in the top 100? It has more enhanced lighting, detailed ground textures, and better player models. They even added an endless mode where players can try seeing how long they can last for high score purposes. For some reason, they messed up Shell Shock's name and they called it Tread Carefully for some dumb reason. That is such a downgrade, it doesn't even fit the title or gameplay anymore. It's visually more impressive than the N64 and 3DS version, and it has the improved controls from the 3DS version, but I still prefer the N64's for having the better color palette for the checker pattern floor. Bumper Balloon Cars looks more desaturated than the N64 version, but the balloons are actual 3D modeled this time, and the star flags in the background actually wave in the wind a bit. Overall, it's a nice attention to detail. The controls are still tricky, but in the best intended way. The characters' heads aren't as oversized this time. Now I have no idea why they brought back Sneak and Snore. The hiding controls are just as slow and unresponsive as ever. Once again, the characters' heads aren't as oversized. The lighting still looks a lot better, but the coloring and floor patterns are even worse. I just hate this minigame overall. Mecha Marathon is remade to closer resemble the 3DS remake. The color choices for the scenery are better this time, but I still prefer the colors of the scenery from the N64 version, and I miss the Fly Guys having colors that actually match the players, like in the N64 version. Slot Car Derby is back based on the revamped gameplay from the 3DS version, but it now includes all 3 variants from Mario Party 2, instead of only having tracked 1 selectable. While it visually looks better this time, the 3DS version played better, for that version had a camera that focused only on player 1, but they had to go back with having a constantly moving camera that tries fitting all 4 racers into the shot, making it harder to focus on a racer. Now I get why they had to revert it, since the 3DS was made for single players to view at once. So, with the Switch, which is made to be shared on a TV screen, they obviously had to have the camera focus on all the players at once, in case people who are playing couch co-op or tabletop mode, but it still makes it more annoying to play for single players. Now I'm tired of having to repeat how much I hate Bowser's Big Blast, but this is honestly the worst version of this minigame I've ever seen. It's even uglier now with its desaturated colors, and they have to annoy the players by intentionally slowing the minigame down, making it even longer. They intentionally have longer lasting pauses between pushing the lever it just gets on my nerves even worse than it did before. Roll Call returns, and this time it even includes the Toad and Boo variants, instead of just counting the Bob-ombs like in the Top 100 version. Now, I said the 3DS version had better 3D models, but the N64 version had better backgrounds. But in HD, I think both look better. I love how the grass has actual rendered blades of grass, and I think the trees look better. I like the little beams of light, and admittedly, the character models do look a lot smaller this time though, but overall it's still a huge improvement. Oh god, would someone just burn that stupid tree down? Why does Nintendo think people actually liked Honeycomb Havoc? They could have remade much better minigames like Skateboard Scamper, Deep Sea Salvage, or Platform Peril, yet they chose this. The fruit looks bigger and better this time, and the bees are still flat sprites. That's all I really have to say. This minigame can piss off. On to Mario Party 3 games. Snowball Summit is back, and it's better than ever, with better lighting and really stunning snow effects, with tracks that actually last throughout the entire minigame. Thank you so much for making the best minigame from Mario Party 3 look even more gorgeous. Ice Rink Risk looks less frosty than the N64 version, and less glossy than the 3DS version, but it at least still maintains the 3DS's improved controls. Bouncin' Trounce got rid of the ugly pink color scheme from the 3DS remake, and it brought back the purple and green color scheme from the original, along with adding a shiny checker floor pattern to it. The curtains in the background actually swing around, which adds some nice attention to detail. Aside from the reflective drizzle added to Storm Chasers, this minigame honestly looks worse than the past two entries. I like the 3DS version for it had better textures and detail, but the HD version tries so hard to make it look too realistic that it's just dry and desaturated now. It's not fun to look at anymore. It just reminds me of why fantasy is better than reality. You can make reality look better with fantasy. Mush Pit resembles the remade version from the 3DS, but now it has a ridiculous bloom effect. It makes everything harder to look at. It's just too bright. The controls are much worse as well. One thing I loved about the 3DS version was how it got rid of the pesky delay from Growing Giant, or it sped up the recovery after banging into a wall. The HD version unfortunately reverts back to how sluggish it played on the N64 version. Cheep Cheep Chase looks so much worse in HD. It looks so desaturated and much gloomier. The water doesn't even look like water. It now looks like a sheet of plastic wrap. I will at least say the controls were improved. Originally, we had to press the B button to dive underwater, but since we had to rely on bashing the A button repeatedly, it made having to press that B button a lot harder, and then it also made it easier to accidentally have your thumb slip and accidentally press the B button, and then you dive prematurely, which can really mess you up, and then not to mention how pressing the Z button would also cause you to dive, so it's easy to accidentally press that button as well while you're button mashing, so just a lot of accidents could happen with this one. So the remake, it now has us pressing down on the joystick to dive, which works a lot better in my opinion. So overall, the remake is uglier, but it admittedly plays better. Chip Shot Challenge is the same as it was on the 3DS, but now with prettier grass renders, but the minigame still stinks. Rockin' Raceway looks brighter than the 3DS version, but at least it's not as oversaturated anymore. This minigame is so much more annoying than the N64 version, since the characters have to shout or grunt every time we press a button. Messy Memory visually looks better, using actual 3D models for the items instead of flat sprites with thick pixelated outlines. On to Mario Party 4. Trace Race admittedly controls better on Switch, but why is it that the 3DS remakes are too oversaturated, yet the Switch versions lack color? The GameCube original still looks better by giving each player their own unique crayons that match their color, and they even have these paper clips at the beginning that have an emblem that resembles each of the characters' emblems or something. You know, it's like the remakes, they just replace them with these boring mushrooms, and it's just not as fun to look at. Bookswarm visually looks and plays a lot smoother than the 3DS version, though the GameCube version still has the more realistic looking feather pen. This also contains an endless mode as a side option, just like the extras mode from Mario Party 4. Paths of Peril admittedly looks better than both the GameCube and 3DS versions, with more realistic textures and colors. It controls a lot better than the 3DS version as well. On to Mario Party 5. Dinger Derby looks better than both the past versions, but I think it might be harder this time. The balls feel like they shoot out faster, or the swinging might not be as responsive, I don't know, but I found myself missing more balls than I usually do when playing this minigame in past versions. Leaf Leap looks better for the most part and has a smoother frame rate than the 3DS version, but I hate how foggy it gets when the characters reach the clouds. It just makes the minigame less entertaining to look at compared to past versions. Pushy Penguins is basically the same as before, but the water and penguins are darker than they looked on the 3DS. For Coney Island, the arena and background actually looks better than ever, but the GameCube version still had the best looking ice cream scoops. Seriously, why do the green scoops look like slime in the remade versions? What happened to Bill Blasters? This one used to be so colorful. Nightlight Fright has better nighttime visuals in HD, but the 3DS version had better stone-tiled ground textures. It looks so colorless on Switch. Later Skater looked more colorful on 3DS than it does on Switch. At this rate, we might as well just assume all the 3DS versions of these minigames will be more colorful, because I'm tired of repeating myself. Onto Mario Party 6, Catch You Later plays the same as past versions. Trapeze Artist does have better looking grass on the Switch version. The flowers look so much worse. But the Goomba-shaped grass in the center looks so much better on the 3DS. It actually had depth to it, where it's now a flat texture on Switch, and it's just not as noticeable. What Goes Up was better on GameCube for having more colorful clouds, plus we had the nighttime variant where we had to do the course in reverse by falling from the top of the clouds to race to the bottom. It makes the HD remake feel kinda lame in comparison. Snow World has better looking snow in HD, but worse colors than the previous versions, and it still doesn't have the nighttime variant. On to Mario Party 7. For Monty's Revenge, the grass and colors looked better on the 3DS, but I am glad to see that the Switch version brought back the funny ending of the losers being chased off by a mole with a hammer. The final countdown looks better in this version, with more realistic looking cliffs and water, and even the arena has a reflective surface. Pokey Pummel overall looks better and more realistic, but the Pokies look worse, and the sound effects are less impactful than before. They used to make like these smashing sound effects, and now they sound bouncy as we hit the Pokies, and I don't know, I kinda like the smash sound effect better. There are no 4-player minigames for Mario Party 8, so on to Mario Party 9. Manner of Escape looks brighter this time, which doesn't quite fit the spooky theme as well compared to the Wii version. It is kind of interesting to be able to play this minigame with a joystick now, since we could only play it with a Wii Remote D-pad back then. Goomba spotting is the same as before as we press a button to count the Goombas, but this time it has better textures and 3D models. On to Mario Party 10. Flash Forward plays just like it did on Wii U, but now we use a joystick to move around. We also have more realistic lighting, and the floor has a more reflective surface. Honestly, the still frame at the end, it made it look like Daisy hung herself. Yikes. Rapid River Race has better looking water now, but there seems to be a delay in speeding up the boat. Previously, we could just rapidly tap the A button to max out the speed on the Wii U version, but now it takes a lot longer. On to the 3 Bowser minigames. Facelift goes back to playing the way it did on the N64 version, but the pressure points from the 3DS version are still slightly visible. It allows us to see which parts of the face can be pulled, so thank goodness that the face isn't a silhouette anymore like on the 3DS remake. This one got a major visual overhaul, for Bowser's face now looks like it's made of clay. I mean, it's kind of funny and artistic, but I kind of liked it better when it actually looked like we were stretching with Bowser's actual face, instead of a lifeless clay head. I forgot to mention this in my top 100 review, but both the 3DS and Switch remakes, they got bland purple hexagon backgrounds, where the N64 version had a parody background of Mario 64's start screen wallpaper, and it said Super Bowser 64 instead. Now, I don't care how outdated it is, it's still a cooler background than whatever the remakes have. The rest of the Bowser minigames are straight from Mario Party 6, which in my opinion had some of the best Bowser minigames. Dark and Crispy has better flame effects, but it's less colorful, despite mostly taking place in the dark. Pit Boss has a more grayish color scheme, and a less minty green color scheme. The spiked iron balls have a stronger metallic shine. Bowser's face symbol on the floor is more simplified on the Switch, but darker and more contrasting. On to 1 vs 3. I think Piranha Pursuit looks even worse in HD than the 3DS version. Everything looks like a wet stop-motion set. The rain is less noticeable, there's no splash effect while skateboarding. Heck, the sound effects for the skateboard are missing entirely. You no longer hear the wheels spinning rapidly as the player speeds up. They also got rid of the sad-faced cloud and replaced it with a boring regular cloud. At least they got the correct music choice this time, and the vine swinging actually does feel more responsive this time and gives more of a speed boost. But otherwise, I do think this is one of the worst versions of that minigame. I still think the first one's a lot better. So from the first game, we got Tug of War. It looks too bright and colorless in the HD remake. I think it looked better on 3DS, actually. Archer Arrival from Mario Party 2 looked better in HD, but the shooting is now worse. Why do they shoot the arrow so high this time, instead of straight in the center of the characters like before? Look Away no longer has the floating heads of the players and replaced them with these moving portraits of the characters' heads and shoulders. Despite how the HD models of the characters are supposed to be more expressive, the characters lack expressions in this minigame, which just makes the over-the-top anime faces from the N64 version more amusing to watch. The characters used to look at each other or look sad for the rest of the game after being eliminated, yet they still keep blank faces in the remake. They don't shrink when they get eliminated either. Changing directions is a lot faster and less restrictive in this version, so it kind of plays better though, but it looks worse in my opinion. Onto Mario Party 3 with Title Toss. I honestly thought the water looked cooler on the 3DS version. It was more colorful, and the waves were more noticeable. For some reason, the mountain on the HD version now looks like it's made of baked dough. Boulder Ball looks so much better in HD. The forklift isn't just a box of an oversized player head sticking out of it anymore. We can actually see the player moving levers to turn and release the boulder. The scenery looks a lot better too, with the desert cracks and field of depth. Unlike other desert minigames, this one dials back on the bloom effect, which makes it look less distracting. Coconut Conk looks more realistic, and it got rid of the fake cardboard clouds with eyes, in exchange for more realistic looking clouds. The lighting is distracting in this one. Geez, it's so bright you can't even see Rosalina's face. Spotlight Swim has been upgraded with actual light physics for the spotlights, where on the N64, the spotlights were just transparent PNGs of colored circles. So it makes the lighting look much more realistic on Switch. The water looks more ripply and shiny, but they got rid of the warp pipe cutouts and they didn't replace them with anything, so it kind of makes it look a little emptier on the side. I never liked Hide and Sneak, but it looked so much better on the N64 with its darker colors. I hate how the wooden stage props now have beveled and embossed edges. It looks very distracting, like when people think applying filters and everything on Photoshop makes any picture look better. One difference in the remake is that there's the addition of spotlights over the characters when their hiding places are revealed. Goal from Mario Party 4 has visually better imagery on the Switch, and it even has more characters sitting in the bleacher seats. They're all filled this time, where there were a lot of empty seats in the previous versions. It's still missing the advertisements of both Nintendo and Hudson, but once again, it's understandable why the Hudson logo isn't there anymore, but it's still questionable why Nintendo is ashamed of advertising their own company now. On to Mario Party 5. Squared Away borrows heavily from the 3DS redesign, replacing the once heart-shaped tiles with an 8-bit sprite of Mario. The 3DS just had Mario's head from his appearance in Donkey Kong, but this one now has the upper half of how he looked in the very first Mario Bros. Game. It visually looks better, and they even brought back the Thwomps who only appeared in the background of the GameCube version. However, they were too lazy to animate them this time. The sound effects are less annoying than the 3DS version, but still not as good as the GameCube version. They actually got the right music track this time, unlike the 3DS remake. The biggest crime is that it still cut out the funny ending of the losers getting chased and trampled by the Thwomps. 2-Bit or Lose It has much more realistic snow and snowflakes, along with better shaped and textured cliffs. The controls for the big inner tube are so much faster and looser, compared to the 3DS's sluggish and butchered controls. For Mario Party 7, Pogo a Go-Go restored itself to resembling more of the GameCube original. It brought back the intro of the players being dropped from helicopters, and it went back to using the misty-looking clouds from the first game, instead of the thick fake ones from the 3DS remake. The minigame still stinks, though. For Mario Party 9, Tackle Takedown actually looked and sounded better on the 3DS. It was more colorful, and I liked how the goal was painted orange, compared to having a yellow light border around it, like in the HD remake. They also got rid of the atmospheric bird chirping sounds from the beginning of the minigame. It just makes the Switch version sound emptier. And once again, the Switch version is just too bright. For Mario Party 10, Skewer Scurry is very identical to the original, it just has some different lighting and shading. On to 2 vs 2, with Bobsled Run from the first Mario Party. It visually looks a lot better on Switch, with glossier looking ice, and the snow bricks are actually made of thick ice now. The backgrounds look so much better as well, with better field of depth, less fog, and the additions of tunnels and giant icicles. My biggest complaints are that the controls feel worse, but it could just be that the CPU are dumber in this version compared to the N64 version. It just makes the turning feel stiffer. This one is also more annoying, unfortunately, for the characters keep shouting every time you tilt left or right on the joystick. Sheesh, can the characters just shut up in these modern games? I don't mind hearing them every once in a while, but constantly hearing huh, 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 or wah, wah, wah after every button or joystick movement, it does get very annoying. Unlike the Top 100, which brought back the Mario Party 2 version of Handcar Havoc, this one brings back the original N64 version, and it looks and plays better than ever. It has a new intro this time, where we see the players actually moving the cart forward to the starting point. The N64 version was too dark, and the lava looked more like stomach acid. Here, the lava looks more detailed and orangish, and we even see specks of burning ash flying in the air. Instead of a pitch black background, we get a better sense of depth, as we can actually move past these giant rocks that are rising out of the lava. I also noticed that they got rid of the ceiling stalagmites when going up the hills. They were only present in the N64 version. And the two green mushrooms and star from the goalpost were bigger and more colorful on the N64. The controls are easier to manage on Switch, making it less likely for us to fall off the edge, and the sound effects are more realistic this time. It's overall a huge improvement. From Mario Party 2, we have Dungeon Dash. The Top 100 remade Desert Dash from the first game, but Superstars decided to remake the clone from the second game. For once, it's the N64 version that looks desaturated. The remake has more realistic fireballs and actual lighting physics for the light coming from the exit. It overall looks better, but the lava looks way too over-exaggerated in this game. It just looks too poppy and bubbly, it just doesn't look right when it moves. Speed Hockey looks better in HD, especially since they got rid of that distracting ghost effect from the shell when it went too fast. It makes it easier to concentrate on bouncing the shell back. It uses the correct music track this time, unlike the 3DS version. Though the N64 version still has better sound effects and music though. Balloon Burst was remade and the backgrounds look a lot better in this version, but the Bowser balloons are honestly a huge downgrade. They look so much sillier on the N64, the way it kept changing faces as they got bigger. Now it's just, they're nothing but boring, lifeless balloons of Bowser. The controls were drastically changed. Instead of alternating between the A and B button or the A and Z buttons, now we alternate between the L and R buttons. It's honestly kind of jarring and unnecessary. If they really wanted to change it, wouldn't it have made more sense to have us just be pressing up and down on the joystick? Wouldn't that be more suitable? Also, the balloons bursting at the end, it isn't as explosive as the N64 version. It's also a lot slower this time. Instead of doing it as fast as we can, we gotta make sure to pull it all the way up and all the way down. Cake Factory scenery looks more simplified than the 3DS version, but the cakes and strawberries look so much better. They actually got the right music track this time. Sky Pilot got such a downgrade in this one. It's less colorful, our planes no longer look like silly birds, and the cannons are more relentless than ever, and the controls seem harder to pilot. They got rid of the cloud dividing graphic between the two screens, but the Bowser balloons and cannonballs are now fully modeled. We no longer hear annoying squeaks every time the wings flap, but now we gotta hear the characters constantly grunting every time they flap, and yeah, it gets pretty annoying. Well, at least it no longer looks like the players in the back are licking the driver's ass. For Mario Party 3, we have Etch and Catch. It now looks more realistic, with the background being fully rendered in 3D. The crayon lines have a higher pixel ratio, but the Toad stamp is a downgrade in my opinion. Instead of just a simple drawing of Toad's head, they now used a line art of stock art of Toad that shows more of his body. I honestly think it worked better when it was just his head. And now we have to listen to Toad's more annoying modern voice every time he pops out, instead of his more adorable voice from the N64 party games. Seriously, Toad's original voices were so much better. Picking Panic looks better this time, with more detailed backgrounds and textures, and actual 3D modeled cherries. The CPU are actually cooperative this time, they're not constantly missing or dropping cherries like before. I've heard many people claim that Woody from Mario Party 2 looks creepy. I never thought that back then, but I'll admit, he looks creepy in HD. He now looks less like a tree and he looks more like a rotten corpse. With all those rigged textures and those hollow eyes, yeah, it is creepier. Somehow, Eats a Pizza keeps looking better with every time it gets remade. For the first time ever, the pizza is fully 3D modeled instead of being a pixelated pizza like before. You can actually see the crust and cheese swell up as the characters eat through the pizza. You can even see steam flying out of it. The attention to detail is so insane and it makes you hungrier than before. However, I'll take mine without peppers or onions. For Mario Party 4, Dungeon Duo is back. It looks a lot brighter and cleaner this time around, which kind of ruins the vibe of escaping from a dark and gloomy dungeon. It mostly plays the same as before, but the balloon segment now plays exactly the way Balloon Burst was remade in Superstars. I also feel like the CPU are less considerate in this game. For instance, when it's their turn to rotate the platform for us to travel, they don't bother slowing down to make sure that we get on safely. They randomly move as we jump right at it. It's so stupid. It makes us easily lead to our deaths. I remember the CPU being less of a nuisance on the GameCube version of this. The balloon segment at the end looks so much worse as well. It's less colorful and it no longer has the big star on the balloons, so yeah. Overall, not too impressed with this one. Reverse of Bob-omb plays exactly the same as before. For Mario Party 6, Burn Style got a visual upgrade with the lava, but the arena looks less colorful. The CPU are less of a bother this time, as they don't run around as aimlessly as before, which doesn't get as distracting. Rocky Road looks like a huge improvement on Switch. More lush-looking grass, more lifelike water, less burning colors, and more detailed and textured trees and rocks. The rocks don't look as much like crap anymore. I also like how the trees blow in the wind more. I forgot to mention during the Top 100 review, but in the GameCube version, we were being driven around by a Shy Guy. But in the 3DS and Switch remakes, they were replaced with Toad, and at the end, the winner picks up Toadette as a passenger. For Mario Party 8, we have Paint Misbehavin'. It's strange how I actually think the Wii version looks better than the HD version. The canvas has an actual texture, and I like the darker blue and pink colors that we get from the ink, versus the lighter colors on the Switch. The ink splats look a lot better on the Switch though, but it's annoying how they keep copying and pasting the same splat effect over and over. They should have at least had one or two more splat variants and maybe rotated them every time you have them like slightly rotate every time you shoot them, so it doesn't look like it's just a copy and paste of the same splat over and over. It would have been nice to have a variety of splats instead. I'm glad they kept in the ending where the winners get back in the cannons and start firing at the losers as they scramble with panic. Onto the duel minigames, sadly there's only 5 of them. Starting with Mario Party 3's Tick-Tock Hop, it looks shinier this time and it even has an endless mode option. How was this not in the top 100? Vine With Me looks better than ever. They brought back the giant piranha plants from the original one. They were missing in the 3DS version. They're now fully 3D modeled and animated instead of being still background art like from before. Motor Rotor is back. I preferred the warp pipe colors from the first one, but I do like the added lights in the remake. I don't get why this one wasn't in the top 100. Skipping all the way to Mario Party 6, Mass Meteor got a massive glow up, with better galactic skies and more realistic meteors. The ones on GameCube honestly looked more like potatoes, to be honest. I just wish they kept in the sun and moon banner that divided the screens. Yeah, like, so many past Mario Party games, they had like these really cool division line arts for like the split screen minigames, and I can guarantee you none of the remakes in these games bothered keeping that in. They just replaced it with a really bland border. It stinks. I'm glad they kept in the funny ending of the loser bouncing off a meteor in the background, but this time you can actually hear them scream as it happens. Wait a minute, I thought no one could hear you scream in space. Also, I just realized the name of this minigame is a joke on the term mass murderer. Yikes. For Mario Party 7, we have Spin Doctor, and it's just as annoying as before, but now the lighting is too bright and the music is more annoying than before. Onto the coin collecting minigames. For Mario Party 1, we have Hammer Drop. I could have sworn this was called Hammer Throw, but the arena looks a lot bigger, the water is more realistic, and the Hammer Bro throws out way more coins than before. He also looks happier, unlike his angry N64 design. He now makes noises as he throws the coins and hammers. If you fall off the tower, you don't get to keep any of the coins you collected. I just want to say how crazy it is to see the return of the coin bags and the treasure chests from the original 5 games. I think they've been missing ever since Mario Party 6, and it was cool to have minigames where you can actually earn 5 to 10 coins at a time. You just see less of that as the series went forward past the GameCube era and more onto the gimmicky consoles. They brought back Castaways, which looks better than ever, with more rippling water and more detailed islands, but the controls are still kind of annoying. It still requires us to flick the controller at 3 sensitivities to try casting short, mid, or long casts. Slightly easier this time around, but I would have preferred just moving a cursor up and down to set the length, or if we had to charge the A button to one of 3 settings or something. I feel like there's much better ways they could have revised the controls here. For Mario Party 3, Parasol Plummet got rid of the character-assigned colored umbrellas and went with the generic player colors introduced in every game since Mario Party 6. Will we ever get a Mario Party game that lets us customize the team colors for each of our players? I'm sick of Player 1 always getting red items. I want to be blue for crying out loud. Let us choose our players' colors at the options menu or something. So every time we have a minigame where we have to have a different colored item, let it match the color we chose. The umbrellas do have more realistic animations this time. You can actually see the umbrellas flapping in the wind as you drop. Why was this one not in the top 100? Also, the cloud at the end no longer has a face because this remake can't stand faces on clouds for some reason. Money Belt from Mario Party 6 returns, but it's been renamed to X-Ray Payday. In Mario Party 4, there was a different minigame with the exact same name, and both of those minigames are featured in this, so they had to change the name of one of them so one of them stands out. I think X-Ray Payday works a lot better for this minigame, since it does involve using an X-ray to find money in boxes. It plays the same as before, but it's once again less colorful. The boxes look more like the modern yellow question mark blocks. From Mario Party 2, Quicksand Cache is back. It even kept in the detail of Baby Bowser falling into the quicksand, except now he's replaced with Bowser Jr. The gameplay is the same as before, but the quicksand effect looks a lot better this time, less polygonic than the N64 version. For Mario Party 3, the N64 version of River Raiders has visually aged horribly. You can constantly see the screen tearing up with black lines, and they even forgot to add a skybox. You see like a blank black background like on the edges, so that being said, I think the waters and colors of the N64 version were better. The river on the HD version, it has no flow to it, and it just looks like reflections are flickering across the screen like plastic wrap reflections. It doesn't give off the illusion of actual moving water. It just looks cleaner in HD, but it's a shame that it looks so dull. For Mario Party 4, we have Money Belts. It plays the same as before, but there seems to be less candy scattered across the background, but they're fully 3D modeled this time instead of just being flat sprites. I think the GameCube version made more vibrant and standout colors with the candy themselves. For Mario Party 3, we have Puddle Paddle. It's so strange how the water quality can range from being so bad in some minigames, but good in others. Compared to the previous water minigame from Mario Party 3 that I just went over, the water looks so much better in this version, as does the setting. The background was so bland and forgettable in the original, I never noticed that we were paddling inside of a beach cave. For some reason, I just took a side glance and figured we were in some kind of dry grassed area. But after playing the HD version, I can clearly see that we are indeed in a beach cave. It's more noticeable this time, especially with the shadows on the edge that indicate that there's a big opening at the top that's letting in sunlight. It's overall much prettier to look at. From Mario Party 6, we have Cachapult. It looks so much emptier in HD, for they got rid of all the rainbows in the sky, and the CPU is more cooperative this time at least. Sadly, the night variant is missing. From Mario Party 8, Winner or Dinner returns, but only as a 2 vs 2 minigame, for it was also a dual minigame on the Wii. It visually looks better in HD, with stronger gusts of wind, better sand effects, more rippling water fountain, and a higher poly piranha plant, though they do seem smaller this time. The controls are better, now using a joystick instead of the D-pad to move. They even kept in the strange ending where everyone gets engulfed by a giant sandstorm. Did everyone just die? Ironic, they survived getting eaten by plants just to get eaten by a storm instead. On to the bonus minigames. I noticed a huge error that surprisingly never got patched out. They list Beach Volley Folly from Mario Party 5 as a game from Mario Party 4. No, that is false. This was not in Mario Party 4, not ever. It visually looks better than the previous versions, but once again, it plays sluggish like the 3DS version. It's missing the greater speeds of the GameCube version, and once again skips the option to let us play with a bomb or a dice block. The controls do feel more responsive, unlike the faulty 3DS ones that didn't register at times. It still doesn't let us set the point rules, and it only lets us play first to 7 point rounds. Ice hockey also returns, but it looks blander than ever. They got rid of the big Starman in the center of the rink. Otherwise, it plays smoother than the 3DS version. Shell Soccer from Mario Party 9 returns. It's basically the same as before, but with better looking grass, the removal of the Nintendo advertisements, and we now get to play with proper joystick controls. And finally, the puzzle minigames. Mario's Puzzle Party from the third game returns. It's got a visual overhaul using 3D models for the Lakitus that are holding the puzzle boards. along with higher res sprites. The character art on each screen looks higher quality as well. My only gripe is that it only features the multiplayer version, which rewards whoever reached 100 points first. I'm bummed that they got rid of the endless single-player version. We had like an endless single-player version in both Mario Party 3 and even Mario Party DS. It's still a decent minigame. It should have been in the top 100, but it needed an endless mode. Sadly, the same goes for the rest of the puzzle modes in this game, so I'm not going to bother bringing it up that they no longer have an endless mode, but yeah. I have no idea why Nintendo keeps bringing back this puzzle game in particular. There's so many better puzzle games from so many better entries, but for some reason, Block Star from Mario Party 6 keeps coming back. It admittedly looks better this time, especially compared to the lackluster 3DS or DS remakes. The blocks have better colors with different patterns to help them stand out more, but it's still the same tiring gameplay of moving blocks from the bottom to the top, and I just don't think this is a very fun puzzle game. The sound effects are much worse as well. Another one that they keep remaking, Stick and Spin from Mario Party 7. This time it's fully 3D instead of using sprites like before. I honestly preferred the look of the balls when they were sprites though, because back then they just looked like gumballs, and now they have these ugly checker patterns over them and kind of ruins their design and appeal. I preferred their simplicity back then. I didn't mind the checker patterns added to the blocks from Block Star, but they just don't look right when added to the spheres in Stick and Spin. Also, I think this minigame worked a lot better when it was a single-player game compared to being a versus mode game. And that was all the minigames from Mario Party Superstars. It was honestly a mixed bag. Half the minigames were decent, but most of them were just ones we already saw in the top 100. It made it feel like we practically bought the same game twice, except the top 100, that was only $40, where this one was $60. Replaying the N64 minigames almost feels obsolete nowadays, since the Switch Online makes it easier to just play the first 3 games. Some of the minigames look and play a lot better than the originals, but many of them look worse or even play worse, or they're just too similar to the originals, so the top 100 had some minigames missing from this game that were actually good. I overall preferred the looks and controls of the minigames a lot better on Switch, but I honestly got to admit that I think top 100 overall had the better selection of minigames. It even let us play out the puzzle minigames on an endless mode option. It's really the party mode that makes Mario Party Superstars the better of the two. It brought back 5 classic board maps. It's admittedly small when you compare it to previous entries. I mean, most often we get 7 maps per game, but it still beats Top 100's lousy one-stage selection, and not to mention how bad the gameplay from that board map was. Party mode recreates the character select screen from the first game, with the characters falling down the warp pipe. The music is so much worse though, so it kind of ruins the nostalgia and whimsy of that. The roster may be smaller in this game compared to previous entries, but it's still an improvement over the roster from the first 2 games. The first 6 players return, but now we get to see Waluigi, Daisy, Rosalina, and Birdo going down the same warp pipe, something we never got to see in the original N64 version. So starting off, we have Yoshi's Tropical Island from the first Mario Party, one of my favorite board maps. The sad thing about these remade board maps is how they don't have new stories to tell, or they don't try retelling the old stories. For instance, in the first 2 games, each board map had a story that got resolved with a cutscene. Those are missing in this game. Instead, we get screenshot recaps that tell the history of this level, what happened years ago, and how our heroes saved the day. So the blue and pink Yoshis are no longer in the center of the stage waiting for us to reunite them. However, they made up for it by having many Yoshis cameo across the board map. It's nice, but it still would have been cool if they at least had the blue and pink Yoshis like still in their original spot. At least had a bridge between them to show that they're still able to reunite or something. But despite removing the story elements from these board maps, this game still has unique award ceremonies, something we haven't really seen since after Mario Party 2. In this game, they just equate to different baddies from the board maps chasing the losers out until the winner is standing. For this level, the losers get eaten by the big Cheep Cheep. At the end of each board map, we get a group photo showing the winner clear in the front and the 4th place loser way in the back, usually falling behind or getting hurt. It may not be as exciting as the happy ending cutscenes from the first game or the fun Bowser fight cutscenes from the second, but it's still better than the lazy award ceremonies we've been getting ever since like Mario Party 3. On the bright side, the levels are fully rendered in 3D with actual camera angles and such, something the N64 wasn't powerful enough to render back then. We can now fast forward through the segments where the big Cheep Cheep eats Toad and takes him to the other island while Bowser takes its place. Sadly, they got rid of the animation of Bowser surfing on the giant spiked shell. They instead have him flying in on his Koopa car. But they did throw in a funny animation of him kicking Toadette's star stand out of the way. They actually brought back the Koopa Gold bonus, where every time a player makes it back to the start, Koopa rewards players with 10 coins. But this only applies to the 2 maps that were remade from the first Mario Party, so it doesn't happen for the other 3 board maps. This feature has been missing from every game since the first entry, so it's shocking to actually see it return after so many years. I'm also so glad to see that they brought back the 1 to 10 dice blocks from the first 8 games. I missed these so much, and sadly they did not return in Mario Party Jamboree. They went back to using the slower 1 to 6 dice blocks. Since Boo isn't playable in this game, the Boos return to steal coins and stars from the other players. Unlike Star Rush and Super Mario Party, the Versus spaces go back to playing more like regular battle minigame spaces, as a random 4-player minigame gets selected. They got rid of the mushroom spaces from the first game, where you had a 50-50 chance of rolling again or losing a turn from a poison mushroom. The lucky spaces from Mario Party 9 are implemented into this board and act just like the ones from Super Mario Party. The single-player minigame spaces were replaced with the item minigame spaces from Mario Party 2 and 3. We also now have the inclusion of the item shops, which were not introduced until the second game. And that's one thing I love about when you can remake a series. I love it when they implement some of the best features from sequels and show what the first game would have been like if it had these improvements. The items, however, are sadly not as expansive as the ones from Mario Party 3 or 5, and they go back to containing the simple items from Super Mario Party. Running into Bowser will still have him force us to wear an inner tube that blows up on us and he charges us for the damage, but he also has another punishment that happens more often, where he tempts us to buy a cursed dice block for 11 coins. Right after he tempts us to buy it, he reveals that we could have gotten it cheaper if we just bought it from the store. It's still a less annoying punishment than just getting the inner tube, where you lose coins and get nothing in return. So here you can actually use that cursed dice block on either an opponent to sabotage them, or you can use it on yourself for some convenient rare instances. Next we have Spaceland from Mario Party 2. Visually it looks cooler and still has the pesky Koopa banks, along with the countdown, which can cause Bowser to fire a laser to wipe out all of the coins of any players caught in the blast. Sadly, we do not get the players wearing their spacesuits, and Bowser is no longer dressed like an evil space emperor, which is underwhelming. We don't get a cutscene of the winner battling Bowser in a laser battle, but we do have a Womp driving over the losers with a hover car. Otherwise, Spaceland was my favorite level from the second game. I'm glad to see it return, but man, they butchered its music. Next is Peach's birthday cake from the first game. It's neat to see how much more realistic and tasty the cake looks in HD. Not to mention that it's now fully rendered in 3D. The camera actually rotates around the cake as we spiral up it, which is a really nice touch. It mostly plays the same, where we race to the top to get the star, along with being able to land on event spaces that allow us to buy a piranha plant that can steal coins from any opponent who lands on it. They're much weaker in this game, where instead of stealing half or all of your coins, they just steal 10 coins. However, if we land on an event space where we already planted a piranha plant, we can upgrade it to where it will steal stars on unlucky players who land on it. The biggest change comes from the Goomba with the seeds. In the original game, a Goomba would halt us once we got closer to the top of the cake. He would force us to pick a seed to determine if we go on the path that leads to the star, or be sent to another island to see Bowser instead. Bowser would forcefully sell us an overpriced cake, and once we made it off of his island, the Goomba would make us pick a seed again. The Goomba and seeds are still here, but they were moved after the star space this time. This time, getting a good seed lets us return to the start and re-adventure our way back to the top to get the star, and the Bowser seed still sends us to await a punishment from Bowser. I actually like this change a lot better, to be honest. Preventing the players from going back to start is less obnoxious compared to preventing the players from buying a star. At the end, the losers are bitten by the piranha plants. Now, I get that they were trying to keep its design faithful to the original, but it would have been so nice to see them adjust the cake's design to actually include 4 additional figure toppers to reflect the 4 new characters added to the game's roster, who were not in the original game. Overall, though, I do find this to be an improvement over the first game's version. It's the only board map where the music actually sounds better remade compared to the original track. I forgot to mention that each of the remixed music tracks for the board maps, a new twist happens during the last 5 turns, where we get a sped up, re-orchestrated version of it towards the end. It only happens when you have the remade music turned on, though. The only Mario Party 3 board map to make an appearance in this is Woody Woods, and it looks gorgeous, with more lush greenery and fully animated woodland critters, compared to the static images of them from the original game. Unfortunately, it still contains the worst part of this map, which are the pesky Monty Moles who keep flipping the path signs. This level would have been so much better if the signs only flip when triggering event spaces, or have them trigger every 3 turns instead of every turn. Barely anyone can get stars in this map because of how constantly the signs are flipping. It's so annoying. I really wish I could love this map because I love the visuals, I love the music. Those damn moles ruin everything. And the ending has the evil tree crushing the losers with giant forbidden fruit. And finally, there's Horrorland. They claim it's the hardest map in the game, but no, it's not. It's easy. It's so much easier than Woody Woods or Yoshi's Tropical Island. So in Horrorland, it still carries its day and night system where every 3 turns, the time of day changes, which can open or block certain paths or make certain ghosts appear or disappear. The daytime visuals are more noticeable this time around because I remembered finding it hard to tell if it was day or night back when I played this game as a kid. I never bothered noticing the sun or moon icons at the bottom of the screen, but yeah, I'd have to look at whether there's a sun or moon symbol out this time. I could actually tell just by looking at the colors. Kamek physically appears in this version of the Ward map, where he only appeared on a text box in the original game, but he didn't actually have a 3D model. We didn't physically see him show up. So, to think that was the only N64 game to have Kamek or Magikoopa somewhat appear. He was originally supposed to be a placeholder for the Mario Kart 64 roster until they replaced him with Donkey Kong in the end. One of the best changes in this level is during the ritual from day or night. Originally we could pay ghosts to play music to change the time of day to try and prevent players from reaching the star for the next 3 turns. In this game we get a full cutscene of our players actually dancing with the ghosts as the music plays along for the ritual. It was honestly a nice touch. And the ending has the losers getting chased off by Mr. I. Overall, Mario Party Superstars is a decent trip down memory lane, but with some very mixed results. I've already mentioned how mixed the minigames were. I wish it relied less on bringing back 80% of the minigames that we already saw remade for the top 100, and I wish it focused more on giving other memorable minigames a chance. It's kinda sad to see minigames remade for the 2nd or 3rd time, like Shy Guy Says or Bowser's Big Blast. How many times do they have to remake those minigames? The puzzle games they brought back were much worse than the ones from the top 100, especially without the endless mode. It's too bad that the puzzle mode was exclusive to Mario Party DS. I would have loved to have seen all of the puzzle minigames brought back in HD. I would rather play those on the Switch compared to playing them on a 3DS or a DS. It's also a shame that the minigames from Mario Party 6 still don't have their nighttime variants. It was nice to see certain Mario Party 1 and 2 minigames bring back their original variants, like in Crazy Cutters or Bumper Balls. It's overall half a decent selection of minigames and half a bad selection of minigames. Now, before I say where I'm putting this on the tier list, let's look back on some of the past games. So, on the worst of the D tier list, the worst entry in the Mario Party series is Mario Party the Top 100. But even at its worst, these games aren't necessarily bad video games. It's just that there's much better entries out there that make these look pale in comparison. So after that, we got Mario Party 9 and Mario Party 10 at the top of the D tier list. At the bottom of the C tier list, we got Mario Party Advance, followed by Island Tour, and Mario Party 7 as the best. Moving to the middle of the road games, which are the most mixed quality entries in the series, where they have both an equal amount of good and bad ideas. At the bottom of the B tier, we have Mario Party 3, followed by Mario Party 4, the original Mario Party 8, and Mario Party Star Rush as the best of the B tier. Moving on to the A tier list. These are the good entries, but they have a few flaws that hold them back from being much better. At the bottom of the A tier, that's where I'm going to be putting Mario Party Superstars. It admittedly controls and plays better than most of the games on the D through B tier, but it's lacking new and additional content to truly make it stand out higher. So after that, we got Mario Party 6, Mario Party DS, Mario Party 2, and at the top of the A list, we have Super Mario Party Jamboree. Now, it may not be what I consider the greatest Mario Party game ever made, like Nintendo was claiming it to be, but it came close. I mean, making it to the top 3 is still an accomplishment in a series that has 18 entries across 2 decades worth of content. And with the S tier, the second best Mario Party game in my opinion is Super Mario Party, and the greatest Mario Party game is still Mario Party 5. Now this has overall been a very tiring project, one of the longest review projects I've ever done, taking nearly 2 full months to complete. And sadly, it didn't quite go in the direction I was hoping for. These barely got any views, likes, or comments, but I didn't want to give up, because I made it this far and I wasn't going to give up. It was very tiring, playing so many dumb luck minigames and board maps hour after hour, day after day, but I'm glad I did it. It was a fun trip down memory lane, and it saddens me that most newer gamers don't have easier ways of playing these games. At the moment, the easiest and cheapest way to play these games is to get a Nintendo Switch or wait until the Switch 2 comes out. Only 6 of these entries are playable on Switch, being the original 3 Mario Party titles on N64, which are included with Nintendo Online's N64 catalog. It only costs $60 a year for that subscription. And then we also have the Switch exclusives, Super Mario Party Superstars, and Super Mario Party Jamboree. That leaves all 4 of the GameCube entries unplayable, all 5 previous handheld entries unplayable, and the 3 Wii Remote games unplayable. I was saying how Mario Party Superstars could have been better, and I feel like what would have made them better was, instead of being mixed remakes of select minigames and board maps, they should have just been remade hybrids of specific console entries. Imagine how much better the game would have been if it was just a remake of the N64 games combined into one. Maybe it would have been too big to fit on one cartridge, but they could have easily worked around this with DLC to expand it. Imagine if it just started off as a remake of the first Mario Party game, but it features more additional playable characters, along with all of the minigames from Mario Party 2. But down the line, they could have released DLC packs for $20 or $30 extra that add the remaining board maps from Mario Party 2, Mario Party 3, along with the minigames from Mario Party 3. It worked really well for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe after all, with the Booster Course DLC, so it would have been cool to see Mario Party get a similar treatment. And then down the line, what if Mario Party Superstars got a sequel called Mario Party Superstars Party Box, where it comes with remade boards and minigames from Mario Party 4. And down the line, it could have had DLC to add the extra GameCube maps and minigames and all that to it. I feel like this would have been a cooler and better way of getting remakes of minigames and board maps from the Mario Party series, instead of having such a clustered mess of minigames that just don't fit well together, or board maps that feel incomplete. It feels so weird to play a game where Bumper Balls is playable, yet have Platform Peril missing. Or it might feel empty to have a game where we can play through Spaceland or Horrorland, but the other theme park board maps from Mario Party 2 are missing and not part of the package. It makes it feel kinda empty and incomplete. I would love to see Nintendo give the N64 trilogy and the GameCube saga of Mario Party proper remakes someday. If they can fit 96 racetracks with 41 racers into Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, they shouldn't have any trouble fitting 186 minigames with 20 board maps. Now, I don't expect them to be able to fit in all the hubs, all the stories, all the cutscenes, all the events. I do not expect them to be able to fit all of that into one game. That's just impossible. There would have to be some liberties in trying to accomplish this, but it would still be a dream come true to see a game where we could play all of the N64 minigames and board maps all in one game, along with having a much bigger character selection. Now, I hope you all enjoyed this long yet nostalgic trip revisiting all of these Mario Party games. What's your favorite entry in the series? Now, I don't think I'll ever be able to make a tier list of the best and worst minigames and the best and worst board maps, but out of the top of my head, my favorite 4-player minigame is Candy Shakedown from Super Mario Party. My favorite 1 vs 3 minigame is Mario Mechs from Mario Party 5. My favorite 2 vs 2 minigame is Pie Hard from Super Mario Party. My favorite duel minigame is Vine With Me from Mario Party 3. My favorite side features in the whole series are Coinathlon from Star Rush and Jamboree, Toad Scramble from Star Rush, Partner Party from Super Mario Party, and Super Duel from Mario Party 5. My favorite board map is probably Goomba's Booty Boardwalk from Mario Party 8. Well, that's it for all of the Mario Party games for now. Feel free to request any other games you would like me to review someday. I was thinking of maybe someday going over the party mode from Sonic and the Secret Rings, and maybe revisiting the home console entries of the Mario and Sonic Olympic crossover games. Anyways, that's all I have to show for now. Thank you for watching, see you next time, and have a great day.